tale of Maxwell Roth. He sought the footlights like a moth, his sense of timing never off until he opted to collaborate with a hooded reprobate. The blighter and assassin made a deadly double bill. Jokes, 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 make 'em laugh until they choke. Fairly slay 'em in the aisles, maidens fair and princes charming. Thrills, 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 dashing feats and bloody spills, and I guarantee you'll never see the ending coming. The curtain rose, the scene was set, they danced a murderous duet, and much deserving blood was let up to the scene wherein they disagreed on who should live and who should bleed, and Maxwell Rothy then received a very bad review. Jokes, 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 and there's daggers and there's cloaks, but behind the scenes the leading players differ on the plot. Laugh, laugh, laugh at the dandy's new red scarf. Now 8 shows a week to Beelzebub is his eternal lot. Jokes, 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 make 'em laugh until they choke. Fairly slay 'em in the aisles, maidens fair and princes charming. Thrills, 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 dashing feats and bloody spills, and I guarantee you'll never see the ending coming.
It is time. It is time for awesomeness. It is time for love. It is time for unspeakable acts performed upon each other. It is time for Talk Gaming. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode. It's been a while. I've missed you all immensely, and I'm glad to have you all here. We're in for a treat. We're in for a good time today. For those of you watching live, hello. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad to have you. Basically, I just want to get this out of the way, and if you're watching this recorded afterwards, you don't have to worry about this, but YouTube is currently telling me that the stream, it's not receiving data fast enough, which is stupid because I'm actually sending data to YouTube at a higher bit rate than they even recommend. So I think they're lying to me. So just keep an eye on me. Let me know if you encounter stuttering. Let me know if you're running into that. I see nothing on my end that would suggest there's going to be any issues like that. But if there are, let me know. Where I'm at right now, we have very good internet, despite having just had a major thunderstorm a few hours ago. Like pretty major. I'm not kidding. Like hail coming down. There was thunder, lightning struck like a building that was probably only a few hundred yards in front of me. I actually have pictures of some of the hail. Like you can't really see this. This isn't snow. That's hail. How crazy is that? That's hail that came down from the sky. Like it was insanity. And I was driving through town as this was happening and as all hell was breaking loose. So I'm glad that I did not die. Which is good, but I was expecting that to cause all sorts of issues for this, but nonetheless, I think we pulled out, and we're gonna be okay. I think we're gonna pull together. For those of you who are new to the streams, welcome. Basically, what we do on this little show, this little shindig that we do, is we just hang out. We talk about games. We talk about all sorts of things. I'm gonna touch on some more personal things probably near the end of the stream, just because if that doesn't interest you, you can leave and back out and go do whatever. That's fine. My feelings will not be hurt, but I do want to touch on a few things because we're at a point that's pretty transformative. We're at a big moment in the life of Luke, so I think it's only fair to share some of that info with you. And who knows, maybe we'll get a face reveal as Leica is asking and requesting. But no, it's going to be a good time. I'm really excited. As for what we're going to be discussing, of course, the future of games is kind of what the title of this episode is going after. And kind of the broad direction of where gaming's going, and also where I see this channel going. Like, we're just talking big picture today. That's kind of the theme of what we're going after. Big picture stuff, which I'm excited to tackle. So what we're going to do is we're going to chug through some news items, some topical items. We're going to read through them, talk about them. And the nice thing about doing this show live is that I can actually have a discussion with you guys. I can read the chat and we can respond in real time as to what's going on and your thoughts on certain situations. I can awkwardly try to control my hair as it freaks out and flops. This is the thing, guys. You don't go to people who you've never hired before to cut your hair, because they don't know what they're doing. I don't care if they're super experienced and cut like Michelle Obama's pompadour. I don't care. They don't know what they're doing. Because every time, I swear, like, look at this. This is insanity. I look like Michelle Bachmann. It's just not, it's not good. So the hair is out of control today, and I'm not having it. Yes, there's also peeps behind me. Long story short, I got a very, very good deal on a very nice TV that's been like months in the process. Like it's a very long story, but so I got a new TV to put in the family room, which I'll probably do a video on that discussing, but I don't want it to seem like bragging or whatever. Like, it's just, I'm not super interested in it, whatever. But I had a spare TV at that point. So it's like, oh, I'll put it behind me while we do the show. At least then I can have something interesting just playing. So this is my Assassin's Creed Origins critique that I'll just have playing in the background, because why not? I don't have an interesting background, so I might as well make a video of two people of African descent getting intimate, because why not? Out of context, that would sound bad. I recognize that. I'm sorry. Let's see. Gouthoud says, you look good with glasses, looking handsome. Are we going to see Finley and or Nikki today? First of all, thank you. Thank you. These actually are an edition of glasses from Felix Gray. They're not paying me or anything. It's what, there you go. They're not paying me or anything. I wish they were. I don't have a coupon code for you, but they're just glasses that filter out blue light. So you can even get them with prescriptions. You can get them like with all sorts of things. And they allegedly make it easier to work for extended periods of time at a computer, which I have to say does seem to actually work for me. I used them while making the God of War critique, while playing the game, while doing all sorts of things. I actually have to say, for my work style and with whatever types of monitors that these are, it actually does seem to make a difference. So whatever, if it works, it works. But yes, thank you for encouraging the glasses. I always thought I'd like glasses, but unfortunately I always had good vision. I suck. But who knows, if I really like them, maybe I'll reach out to Felix Gray and see if we can set something up with like coupon codes or something, because I am pretty satisfied with them so far. I'm happy with them. Let's see. As for other things before we jump into it, as always, join the Discord if you haven't already. We'd love to have you over there. We always have a blast. And just because I have to, Patreon, for all of you guys who are currently supporting me on Patreon, I want to say thank you. You guys are helping make this show possible. The generosity that some people have been expressing is just amazing to me. And one of the cool things is if you choose to support me on Patreon, you can get all sorts of special access, all sorts of, like, I'll send you stuff, I'll Skype call with you, like all sorts of cool stuff, kind of behind the scenes. I give you updates regularly on what's happening. You get to see every critique and all the big videos early ahead of everyone else. You get to see behind the scenes stuff as to the editing process and what's going on, scripting processes, all of this stuff you get to find out way ahead of anybody else. So it's just kind of a fun way to chill and to hang out, and to help support a channel that hopefully you enjoy, and to continue to see Cleopatra scantily clad. For those of you listening on iTunes, there's a video of Cleopatra behind me and she is scantily clad. So that's what I was referencing. It wasn't just random. But as for all of that, that's kind of we tackled that. Yeah, I do have a Minion shirt. It expresses my general attitude towards most things. Yeah, no is what it says. It's very straightforward, very simple. As for let's jump into it. Let's quit stalling. I do want to apologize. We're looking at some Polygon articles because they were the only ones that had decent articles that weren't covered in all sorts of ads. But it might also be that my ad blocker works on their site and their site isn't smart enough to stop me. Either way, we're looking at some Polygon articles. So this first one, of course, was the big news from this past week that got a bunch of people upset, a bunch of people frustrated. And that is the news that Call of Duty Black Ops 4 will not have a traditional single-player campaign. And everybody freaked out when this news was released. And it seems to me, at least in my estimation, mostly to be a result of the natural desire for most people to have single-player campaigns, to have the ability to play a game without requiring online connectivity. Like to have more narrative-based gameplay. But the thing that I always stress is you got to think about it in broad strokes. And some of the news as to why they chose to remove the single-player campaign, I don't believe it's actually in this particular article, is that about only 10% of people who played like Black Ops 3's, I think it was, campaign actually finished it. They actually track those stats. Very few people who play the main campaigns in these games are actually going through and finishing them. It's just people are into it for the online gameplay, and that's the thing, is that these games really have become more of a straightforward multiplayer, I guess, chill zone. Like, it's really not designed to be single player focused anymore, which is unfortunate that we don't get a ton of narrative, like first person shooters with really fleshed out mechanics, but that's simply a result of the market. The market really isn't there. It just really isn't. I wish it were, but it's not. And the reality is, if I want to play a first person shooter, chances are I'm going to end up online. It's kind of a chicken and the egg situation. Which came first? Did the fact that there were no single player campaigns cause the lack of games in that genre, or was it that people weren't playing those games and so they stopped making them, and then in turn there's no games to play in that genre? I'm not really sure at which point it swapped, but the very clear thing is that overwhelmingly the vast majority of people who play these like first person shooters like Call of Duty, like Battlefield, are not necessarily playing the first person campaign. They're just not, or the single player campaign. They're just not. I wish they were, because I think that those offer a ton of cool options and cool experiences, larger set pieces, scripted moments that can really take an experience to the next level. But some people obviously disagree with me on that and prefer the more grindy experience of an online game. And that's okay. Everybody's different. But at the end of the day, if people aren't playing it, they aren't going to make it. And that's unfortunately where we landed. Now, Treyarch went on to explain why the game won't have a single player campaign, and it's quite wordy. So I'll just read off the statement that the studio co-head, a man by the name of Dan Bunting, posted on the topic. And what he said was, quote, "When we set out to make this game, we never started with the idea that we would make a traditional campaign. That was just not part of our plan. We started from a place that we were going to make a game that across the board can be playable with friends. That's been our mission from day one. Of course, through the course of development, as always happens with every game, we're to challenge our own conventions, trying different things. Sometimes those things are bold and crazy and innovative, and sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't work out. As development goes on, though, you're always pushing the best ideas forward, and that's what was reflected today." End quote. And by today, he means in the announcement that it won't have a single player campaign. And like, for that, I understand the people who are playing Call of Duty are the people that are playing Call of Duty Zombies, or the people that are playing it online. To be honest, I'm not looking to buy a Call of Duty game for the single player campaign. If I want a really in-depth narrative story in a game, I'm probably going to go and play like Prey, or I'll play Wolfenstein. Like I'll play something along those lines, and I'll get it there. But I don't expect to have a super thought-provoking narrative in Call of Duty, at least not anymore. So for me, it wasn't that much of a system shock to hear that it wasn't going to have a first-person, or I can't talk tonight, a single-player campaign. It just wasn't surprising to me, frankly, because I like, to be honest, I don't think anybody's really heartbroken. I think everyone's just like, oh no, EA and Activision, everybody sucks. It's easy to be pessimistic. It's easy to be negative about these types of things. But at the end of the day, I don't think it actually matters that much. I really don't. On the other hand, this isn't in my lineup of things to discuss, but can I just say, I watched that hour-long, like I think it's 55-minute gameplay reveal thing of Days Gone. That looks pretty awesome. I'm not just saying that. Like, that game looks pretty awesome, and I can probably actually pull that up on this TV behind me. Are you ready to see how, like, look how high tech this faux studio is? Is that gonna, maybe, did it do? Yeah, it worked. I'll skip back. There you go. Look at that. We live in the future, guys. We live in the future. It's courtesy of Game Informer. So thank you, Game Informer, for supplying the gameplay that's playing over my shoulder on my little 40-inch Samsung TV. Overall, like, frickin' Days Gone looks pretty impressive. It tries to do some different things, which I was very skeptical at, because when you look at a game like Days Gone, it's set in a zombie, like, post-apocalyptic world. It's only set 2 years after the post-apocalyptic event happened, which at first doesn't seem significant, but it's actually very significant, because what that means is that, like, all the batteries in the cars that are broken down, they're still technically operative. All of the technology, the like energy systems, all of that's still there. It's just coming down and starting to break slowly but surely. So it's at this really cool moment where things are about to break and snap. There's still, like, semblances of civilization left, but they haven't completely collapsed, which I'm actually really interested in. And I didn't think it would work that well, but the more I thought about it, the more that made sense to me. Because with The Last of Us, you know, you're talking 20, 30, 40 years, depending on when The Last of Us 2 comes out or is set. You're talking 20 to 30 years after the titular moment of the collapse of civilization happened, whereas this is right, technically speaking, comparatively and relatively speaking, is right after, which I think is an actually pretty brilliant idea. It's simple, but it makes a big difference. And in terms of gameplay, they're focused heavily on traversal, so the bikes. So one of the things that in the game world they did is they went through all of the highways and they broke down the bridges, like demolishing them, and tried to basically just limit the modes of travel for the freakers and for whatever. But as a result, you're forced to travel off-road, and you're forced to go and do all of these things, which I think is actually a really clever way of forcing broader gameplay options, which I really enjoy. In terms of the narrative, like, it seems at least semi-interesting. The like, dialogue is a little iffy. Like, the gameplay director, or the writer of the game in this gameplay clip that we're watching, sort of, he said that he's basically just writing it by himself, but he's got all these ideas for, like, cults in the world, the Rippers, which are a group of people who worship, in effect, the zombies, which is actually a really simple idea, but it's also really cool because they cut themselves. They try to make themselves look like the Rippers, like they're sacrificing people to the or freakers. Sorry, they don't like the word zombie for whatever reason. So for all of these reasons, like, there's cool narrative things like that, but then there's other moments where, like, the dialogue specifically is a little like in this moment where he says, oh, well, we wanted to sprinkle in moments where you can see kind of where each of these characters is headed in the broader narrative, and that this might not make a ton of sense now, but it'll make sense later once we do this. And so he I was like expecting really delicate, like gentle plants of dialogue, but then it ends up being like he says, "You know, it wasn't your fault that she died, right? You didn't kill her. It wasn't your fault." And he's like, "I don't want to talk about this anymore. It wasn't your fault. You don't have to feel bad. I feel so bad. It's my fault. I don't want to talk about this anymore. It wasn't your fault. We got to go kill the zombies." Okay. Like, it was very, very limited, and it was just not very deep. I didn't find it very engaging. So hopefully they kind of tone that down. I get that it was a demo sort of thing, but he also said that it was the first hour of gameplay, and if that's the first hour of gameplay and it's already that kind of cringy, and like they say, sprinkle, you can sprinkle stuff. I'm okay sprinkling stuff. I don't like it when you like take a giant pile of stuff and then drop it and it smushes the cake. Like, you got to be gentle. If he had just been like, "You know, it wasn't your fault, right?" And then he just says, "I don't want to talk about this now." It's like, I'm just trying to help. I don't want to talk about this now. Okay. And then they keep writing and they move on. That would work. Because if you weren't listening or paying attention, very quickly you'd kind of check out and you'd be like, "Oh, whatever. It's not that important." But if you were paying attention, then you'd be like, "Oh, well, what wasn't his fault? Why didn't he?" Like, you don't have to go in there and say, "It wasn't your fault that she died. It wasn't your fault." Like, that's kind of ham-fisting it. I'm not a huge fan of that. So I hope they improve upon that. In general, though, I'm very impressed, and I'm interested to see one of the coolest little moments of this entire little demo display thing. It's a little bit later on. I have no way of like scrubbing through this cleanly, so I apologize. It's around here. But basically, there's an enemy type that they're like little babies. They're the freakers that were infected when they were adolescents. So like toddlers, basically, and small children. And they obviously physically are not super developed, and they didn't naturally grow because they became infected and basically died. So they're basically stuck where they were. But what they do have is a ton of energy, but they're also aware of their own shortcomings and limitations. So what they do is they live on roofs. They live on the roofs of all of these buildings, and they'll only attack you when you're either very wounded and near death and they think that they can take you down, or when you come up on the roof and try to take them down and become a very real threat to them. Which is at its outset like, oh, well, like, okay, what's that going to do? But it's actually really cool because as you travel around the compound, you see them watching you from the rooftops. And at any moment, you know, if you got ambushed and your health dropped, you're going to have a good 20 of these little creatures jumping on you. And so you have to keep that in consideration. When somebody does jump on you, you have to have your way of escaping in mind set for that and taking that into consideration. So I think this game has a lot of potential. I'm really interested in it. And I know that wasn't on our docket, but I watched that earlier today and I couldn't help myself. Now, for our patented drink break. Delicious. Delicious. It's not tea. It's not coffee. It's like it's made with a Red Bull. It's like a Red Bull where they put ice in. It's like a Red Bull slushie, basically. And it's working for me. I'll check chat because I've been neglecting it. I apologize. Galifoud says, "I like this new setup with the TV in the background. I prefer seeing your face rather than having the gameplay cover the entire screen." Thank you, my friend. I'm glad you like it because this was initially something I was just gonna kind of dump and get rid of, but I actually agree. I think it makes it a little more informal. It doesn't like, and I don't have to worry about all of these like moving parts. I can just kind of leave it and let it go there. I agree. I like it. And we'll talk a little bit about how I'm going to develop this setup and everything as we go on through the show. And near the end, I'll touch on it a little more in depth because I've got some cool stuff to share, which I think will make many people happy. I'm glad to hear, Jacob, you just finished Hellblade. That is a freaking good game. I was actually going to play some of the footage of that behind me. Hellblade is a grossly underappreciated game. Like the people who are really artsy fartsy about games love it. Everyone else, it doesn't seem like many people played it, which is unfortunate. Because like gameplay wise, I get it. It wasn't amazing, but in terms of like the actual art and like the important stuff, at least what I find important in a game of that type. So not always is art most important element in the game, but in this particular type of game, it is very important, and I think they nailed it. So I'm happy with that. As for what other people are saying, oh yeah, the rune puzzles were meh. Yeah, they did get a little repetitive. I will grant you that, my friend. Like it says, as disappointing as Dark Souls Remastered is, at least it will be at a reduced price since I own the Prepare to Die edition on PC. Yeah, I mean, games like that, as with everything, like I of course go through these old games to do critiques on them. And that's one thing I will say I noticed after releasing the God of War critique, which was really hit or miss. People loved it or hated it. Mainly because I tried to do something very different with it and more academic. I probably wouldn't do it again. Like I'd probably just focus more on the game itself, but nonetheless, like it was what it was. And I worked on it and released it. If people like it, great. If they hate it, oh well. But in terms of the game, I realized because it's new, a lot of people didn't want to watch it because they want to play the game and they're afraid of spoilers. So naturally, like that's not a game that you can spoil just a little bit. Whereas The Witcher 3, like you can watch that. It's a 90-hour game. If you watched a critique on Persona 5, you'd probably like watch it if you had played the game or were interested in where it like heads. It wouldn't be crucial and it wouldn't be something that you wouldn't watch just because you're terrified of these little spoilers. So like the way that the video is, I think it was always destined to be limited. But the reason I brought this up, I go back through this catalog of like older Assassin's Creed games, and what I have noticed is like games like even just tonight I was finishing up the DLC for Assassin's Creed Origins, and I think like it's very well done. Like I really liked it. I really liked it. But then I go on and I try some of the DLC from Assassin's Creed Syndicate to compare it, that I've had sitting on my hard drive forever. And that game, Syndicate, I remember playing it initially and it was amazing. And I friggin' loved it. But like in terms of the gameplay mechanics, in terms of the technology, in terms of everything like that, it just blew. Like not blew, it just wasn't anywhere near as good. It wasn't polished. The controls were vague and difficult. Like it just wasn't as good, and it shouldn't be. Origins should be a lot better. You would expect and hope for it to be a lot better, and I'm glad that it is a lot better. But it's tough to go back and play games. So like Dark Souls Remastered, even if it's remastered, it's not a remake. So it's just a remaster of a game that already was aging fairly poorly when you compare it to other games, at least in the same franchise, or to future games in the same series. It didn't age super well, and so naturally playing it is a little more difficult, because you have to take your brain out of 2018 and what's capable today, and you have to put it into the world of 2000 whatever year that came out. So I don't know. And it doesn't sound like they did a whole lot to change it. I'm glad the price is reduced, but it's still like, meh. And let's see, other things. I saw somebody who had to duck out. A random person had to duck out. He had to wake up early, or she had to wake up early. Glad to see that you could make it for a little while at the very least. Yeah. Oh, Asif Khan says, hi, Luke, 3:50 a.m. from the UK. Thank you for your videos. I'm glad you liked them, my friend. Glad to have you here. Mefuels says, hey, Luke, glad to have you here, my friend. We got Leanne, we got Richard. I will agree Origins was repetitive, Richard. I will agree that. Some people either found it very engaging and like the gameplay loop engaging, or they just found it repetitive and just annoying and boring and checked out. So that's it is a valid criticism, I will grant you. Jacob Drum says, by the way, I found your critique of Hellblade very legitimate and objective. Thanks for the contribution to the gaming community. Keep on keeping on, Luke. I'll try. We'll give it a shot. But thank you for coming out, my friend. Timey-wimey stuff. It's always timey-wimey stuff. You cannot neglect the timey-wimey stuff. Chibi Spidey, I can show you the world. I bet you can. Bring it on. Oh, don't worry. We're going to talk about E3 here in a minute. Don't worry. Favorite PS4 exclusive so far? I don't know. God of War is pretty good. God of War is pretty friggin' good. I'm just saying. Oh, it was pretty friggin' good. But let me slide on through here. This a little more news. Let's keep it going before I get completely off the rails. This I scrolled down too far. I'm not professional. Skull and Bones, which is Ubisoft's pirate game that's like Sea of Thieves, but prettier and potentially much better. It has been delayed into 2019/2020. So, oh well, oops. Whatever you're gonna say. It's a game like Ubisoft says it needs more polish. I'm interested to see what this effectively means, because I think a lot of people, when they initially heard what this game was supposed to be, they were like, oh, you're just taking like the seafaring and pirate like ship whatever gameplay of like Black Flag and Rogue and those games, and you are just making it into its own game. So how hard is that really gonna be? It looks like they're doing a lot more than that, which I find very, very interesting. And they're not pushing it back by a little amount. Bear in mind, this game was set to release sometime in the last half of this year. So pushing it back to like late next year / early the year after, that means there's significant overhauling that is happening. That's not just a matter of polish. That's a matter of like adding a ton of stuff or rebuilding a bunch of stuff. And my personal guess would be that they're trying to avoid a Sea of Thieves situation. Because I think if they initially launched it and it was just like sail around, collect a few ships, and that's it, I think people would be very disappointed. So I think they're going to try to add a lot more questing missions, races. I think they're going to add all sorts of things to try to really fill this out and see what happens. But it's tough because this one's a little more grounded. It's not as cartoony. Like Sea of Thieves got a lot of wiggle room because it was cartoony, so it didn't have to do as much in terms of like it's amazing. Art styles do a lot for a game. Like Breath of the Wild, if they tried to be more naturalistic and realistic, it would not have been anywhere near as good. So I think it's just art styles are a very important part of a game, and they could be used very, very carefully and very, very well in order to mask certain shortcomings. Like Breath of the Wild's art style covered up the lack of power in the Switch, but it worked so well that it actually swung the other way and became a strength of it instead of what could potentially be seen as a weakness. As for art styles in other games, like whether you're looking at a game like Battlefield 1 or Hellblade or Cuphead, they all have particular art styles, but it's a matter of degree as to how that art style serves the overall purpose of the game and of the experience that they're trying to deliver. And I think that that they did a very, very good job with it in Sea of Thieves. I think they just didn't have enough gameplay to back it up, which is always going to be the case. Like you can do some stuff with your art style, but eventually if it's just a coat of paint on an empty car, people are going to notice it's an empty car after 5 seconds of oogling and ogling at the art style. Like there's just limitations. Galfoud, oh yeah, Fortnite versus PUBG. Perfect example, Jacob. Perfect example. It's just like if I don't know what I'm trying to say. I think with Fortnite, the art style really serves it well because it's more inviting. It's a little more playful, and it makes it so you don't have to take it as like super seriously. You find that the people who enjoy PUBG more than Fortnite are the ones who tend to take it a little bit more seriously. They have their team of people that they play and they go through and they do this. They have their Dolby Atmos headphones that they pay $15 for the licensing, and then they go and they play it with their buddies, and they do this every night at 8:30 p.m. and they each have their own patented drinks and special mice that are weighted to their specific hand size. Like, it's a very, very serious event for them. Whereas Fortnite, some people take it that seriously, sure, but most people that I've encountered that play Fortnite are just in it for the fun. They're in it for casually going through and having a good time. And I don't think that you have to, like, I don't know, do this craziness to enjoy it quite as much. Like PUBG, you kind of have to buy into the whole thing. Let's see. Yes, PlayStation's CEO saying PS4 is in its final stage. That makes sense. I mean, you're talking about a console that's approaching 5 to 6 years old. That's about the end of that's final stages for sure. So I mean, I think it's pretty clear it's on its way out. I think next E3 we hear about new hardware, and I think potentially we'll see some new games announced for that. I'm not sure if they're going to try to get The Last of Us Part 2 or anything like that out before the new hardware. That's going to be really interesting how that lines up. Because if you remember, the original Last of Us launched on PS3 and then later was remastered for the PS4. Night and day difference. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Maybe they're looking to do the same type of thing, like make twice the money. You know, people play through The Last of Us Part 2 on their PS4 Pro, and then next generation they can play through it at full 4K natively at like 60 FPS, you know, without any sort of checkerboarding, and get HDR with it. Like, that would be pretty baller. I'd buy the game again if it's good to do that for sure. So I don't know. Leanne, Luke, are you going to E3? This is going to be my first time going. I'm excited and nervous and a bit scared since I've never been to LA and my boyfriend isn't coming with. I'd love to meet you if you're going. Unfortunately, I'm not, Leanne. I suck. So we all have limitations, right? No, unfortunately, I'm not going. I couldn't get it arranged properly. And next year, I think, is going to be the year, though. I know I said that last year, but my goal has always been when I go, I want to go under like a press whatever thing so that I can go and like sit in the like events, and I can see every presser, and I can like shake hands and like set apart times to go and have like a group dinner, like where we all go out to freaking, I don't know, where do cool people go out to eat? Burger King. We all go out to Burger King and we all eat together. Like, I think it could be really cool. So that's what I'm planning on next year. I think I'm gonna have time to really flush it out and make it pretty awesome. But my hope is to have things like planned out by December so that I can put out feelers, let everyone know I'll be at E3, that we'll have these things that are going to be happening. So if anybody else wants to come and meet up, such as you or anybody else, we could do that. I think it could be really cool and have like a little group all hanging out together. I think that could be awesome. One question I skipped over. Are you going to talk about the Red Dead Redemption 2 trailer number 3? I've been dying to hear your thoughts on it. I love the trailer. Perfect music, dialogue, and graphics and everything else. I would like to talk about it. The difficulty with anything Rockstar, though, is no matter what you do, they will claim your video. They will claim your video. There is no avoiding it. My freaking critique of LA Noire, a game of theirs that launched 7 years ago, was flagged, and they took all of the ad revenue from it just because it happened to have LA Noire in the title. They had somebody look at it, they claimed it, that's it. Like that's they nailed it. They know how to do their job. But yeah, it's just inherently difficult. And Red Dead Redemption 2 stuff I've noticed are it's not a matter of just claiming ad revenue. I'm not like that nitpicky. You know, I'm not that crazy. I'm not going to avoid talking about something just because, oh no, I won't get like $3 from it. Like, I don't care that much. They just will claim the video and it can count as a copyright strike against your channel. And when you only got 3 of those before your channel's deleted, like, you just don't mess around with it. It's just not worth it. So unfortunately, there's not a whole lot that you can manage. As for other things like broad thoughts, I loved it. Like, I thought the trailer was very well made and very well done. I was like, Rockstar, it really is. They are just one of those companies, one of those studios. They just make everyone else look like they are not even trying. Like, it's mind blowing. You look at a game they push out and you're like, what are you guys doing? Are you even like trying? What are you like? How are you spending your time? I get that they're basically rolling in billions of dollars from Grand Theft Auto, but still, my goodness. And to be fair, like, they mainly restructured the game. They restructured the system because they used to just publish games like L.A. Noire, not developed by Rockstar Game Studios. It was developed by Team Bondi, or Bondi, whatever it is. They're no longer around. They were developed by that company, and then the company eventually went under and got absorbed into the rest of the parent companies. But it was published by Rockstar. So they got some of the tech, they got some of the funding, they got some of the backup that Rockstar provides, but it wasn't developed by it. And so a lot of people think, oh, well, Rockstar hasn't been releasing games anywhere near as frequently, so they've been putting all of their time and effort into Red Dead Redemption 2. Well, that's not really what's happening. They were developing basically the same number of games as they always have. The difference is they're just not publishing other games under their broad umbrella, which does create this perception of exclusivity and of this very special air around Red Dead Redemption 2, when in reality, like, it was just Grand Theft Auto 5 and then Red Dead Redemption 2, and it was never going to be any different, but it seems more special because of how they structured the marketing and the rebranding of all of their channels. So now when they choose to publish a third-party game, which they still do, they'll do it under like 2K or whatever, another one of Take-Two Interactive's publishing company names are. So it's, you gotta keep an eye out for that because they'll do some trickery. E3 coverage, yeah, no, we're going to be doing coverage. The Sony conference, we're going to be covering that live. And I think that'll be a blast. I think we're going to have a good time with that. We're going to pull up this. This was interesting. This was also Game Informer, and this was them covering Spider-Man. No, I want the gameplay. Dang it. Why would I want just a bunch of people talking about it? That's boring. Okay, maybe I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'm a fool. Maybe I was always a fool. Maybe I suck. Maybe life has no meaning. Maybe everything is a joke. Maybe, just maybe, we should all give up. End scene. So with that fixed, I think it's going to be pretty solid. We'll go back to this. This is Fallout New Vegas, which you can't go wrong with. Yeah, Spider-Man is looking amazing. But the one possible downside is that it is another superhero like game based on a superhero franchise, and those are notoriously difficult to pull off. When you pull them off, you end up with something like Batman Arkham Asylum, or you end up with Spider-Man 2, or on the other side, you end up with like Superman 64. So who knows what it's going to be like, but we'll see. I have a feeling it's going to be a good year for superhero games. I really do. I think at E3 we're going to see something from Rocksteady. I think it's going to be pretty good. I think Spider-Man's going to kill it. I think there's a lot of potential. So I'm really interested to see what they can pull off. Let's see. What was the other thing? Oh yeah. How could we not talk about this? Battlefield 5 will be revealed tomorrow. I'm going to be working during the presser, so I'm not going to have time to actually like cover the presentation live. And I don't think anybody would be honestly really interested in watching somebody watch the live stream of the announcement. Because it's going to be more of the same. If it's really shocking, like we can talk about it on the show, but I don't perceive or I don't expect it to be super mind-blowing. But yeah, they just said it's going to be a thing, and then they showed this painting, which is a beautiful painting of a horse. It's like a war hearse. So who knows where that's going to lead, but at the very least, they've said that they're going to do that. In sadder news, that is ironically satisfying, Cliff Bleszinski has stepped away from games and says that Boss Key Productions is no more. This is about a week old, a little older than that. But basically, the company, this is the guy that like headed up Gears of War. He headed up Lawbreakers. And then they tried to get into like the Fortnite PUBG craze with Radical Heights, things like that. Just, he's always kind of one step behind the curve, which is a pattern with this guy, which is unfortunate because he seems like a nice enough person. It just seems like it's not super original. It's always attempts to do what other people are doing in a slightly tweaked way, and then getting frustrated when nobody thinks that it's super original. Like, basically what he says is, quote, 4 years ago, I set out to make a world-class video game studio, and I hired some of the best talent in the video game industry. They worked tirelessly to produce quality products, and while we had our ups and downs, I'd like to think we had fun while doing it. Lawbreakers was a great game that unfortunately failed to gain traction, and in a last-ditch attempt, we scrambled to take on the huge battle royale genre with Radical Heights, which was well received. However, it was too little too late. Bleszinski continued to say that he planned on stepping back from development for a time to spend more energy on his family and a sick pet. Video games will forever be a part of who I am, and I hope to make something new again someday. However, I need to withdraw and take this time. So, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? It just seems like he, I don't know. I don't know. I don't like covering little things like this because clearly this is a man who poured a lot of passion and soul into like these games that he was making. However, it just wasn't good enough. And that's not an easy thing to say because we don't like being that critical of people, but the reality is either you're good enough to do these types of things or you're not, or it works or it doesn't work. And the team that he developed apparently just wasn't good enough to pull this all together and to pull this off. And so it's just, that's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. So I hope that he takes care of his family and his sick pet, whatever that entails, and hopefully he can come back and make a new God of War that totally takes everyone by storm. But we'll see. We'll see how it gets drawn out. We'll give it a shot. I'm willing to give him a shot. He just got to get back up on that horse. Give it a shot. In more confusing news, Kojima has teased Death Stranding at E3 with a very cryptic image of moss. I'm not joking. It's a picture of moss. So, yeah. It looks like it was rendered in the engine. This is using the same engine that Horizon Zero Dawn was developed on. So it seems as though it looks very nice. It's moss. There's some leaves and the rock. It has that patented weird depth of field and like Gaussian blur effect put on the foreground to mimic depth of field. I don't think it actually works that well, but like here you see, it's one of my pet peeves with Horizon Zero Dawn is that the bokeh is not natural at all, and it's really weird. So like the foreground blurs in an unnatural way, and so it's used to cover up like all of the sharp edges and all of the like I suppose I don't know what word I'm looking for, but it's basically just to cover up all the crap artifacts that show up, and so they just kind of blur it slightly and then change focus to this where they put the higher res textures and put more effort into the processing, and it works well. It makes it look great, but it does bug me that the depth of field looks so blah blah, just looks blah. But yeah, so he released that saying that that's a thing, and his quote precisely was +1 on the T-3 weeks. And what he's referring to was a follow-up to this tweet, which was from Neil Druckmann. Picture of The Last of Us Part 2 trailer we got last year. And it just says T-3 weeks, hashtag E3 2018. And it's pretty clear they're going to be talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and Death Stranding for like 20 minutes a piece, probably. And then, excuse me, yawn. I think that means I need more drink. Basically, it looks like they're just going to talk about 4 games. Probably give these 2 games 20 minutes each-ish, and then the others will get like 10 minutes each, and we'll just call it good at that. Round it out to an hour. And if we look, what was I going to say? I don't think I have much else to say. Like it's just there. Like it's whatever. We'll see what they can do and what they pull off. I think there's the potential for some really cool stuff from both studios. I have more confidence in Naughty Dog because time and again they just deliver nothing but gold. But I'm nervous because I don't know how you meet that expectation. As for Death Stranding, it's just freaking weird. Nobody knows what's going on with that. If anybody pretends to know what's going on with that, they're lying. I don't think Kojima knows. They're just winging it, and they're hoping that something amazing gets turned out as a result. So we'll see. We'll see. I'm optimistic. We'll see. Now, as for this, let's talk briefly about just some personal things. I said that I'd touch on these things at the end of the video just so that if you wanted to duck out, you could. No hard feelings. I don't blame you. But basically, in terms of what's going on, I kind of touched on God of War earlier. That was the latest critique that went out. And the people, like I said, it was very polarizing. People loved it or the people just did not like it. And that's okay. But it was frustrating me because I poured a ton of time into it, and then to see some people just not respond to it, and more importantly, in terms of the broader channel effect, people just weren't really watching it. It just wasn't getting pushed out and sent to people's notification boxes. People just weren't watching it, and then the people that got the notifications were hesitant to watch it because they hadn't played the game yet and didn't want anything spoiled. So it's just a tough situation. Looking back on it, I can see why. I don't blame anybody for not watching it because they didn't want it spoiled. Like, that makes sense to me. But yeah, it's just it kind of sucked to pour all that time and then it just didn't get hooked. But that's the nature of this business, I suppose. As for future projects, I'm looking, like I said earlier, will likely, the next thing will be a coverage of the 2 DLC packs, major ones for Assassin's Creed Origins. So people have been asking for that pretty incessantly. So we're going to cover that. We're going to talk about it. And as for the next big project, that's something that I've put a few hints in the Patreon, like, sphere, as to what that's going to be. And some of the patrons get special access to like polls and posts that other people can't see. And so in the coming weeks, they're going to get to find out about that. But there's going to be some interesting things. Detroit Become Human obviously is a front runner just because it's a freaking interesting game. And it has the potential to either be amazing or to fall flat on its face and suck really, really badly. So naturally, I'm intrigued. And I think I played the demo. What I will say about the demo is that it's very hard to suck in that demo. It's very hard to mess up. It's very hard to fail. It's very hard to get you and the little girl killed. Like, it's just very, very difficult to not be the hero. And that concerns me, because what makes like multiple branching narrative games so interesting, and like choose your own adventure games interesting, is that there are consequences to mistakes and to your actions. And I love that. That's awesome. But it is still nonetheless I guess what I'm saying, I get that it's a demo. I get that it was a little test thing. They wanted to show off like, oh, look, your decisions. There's like multiple ways that this can go. But I had to like mess everything up. I had to stand at the back of the compound. I had to stand facing away. I had to like talk as stupidly as I possibly could just to get him to the guy that was holding the girl ransom to get angry enough to just jump off the building with the little girl. And at that point, I'm like, well, if I were just playing this, it wouldn't really be branching in terms of the options, because like even trying to fail, it took me 2 or 3 tries. And so you're not just going to like accidentally mess up. So hopefully that was just a demo and they can filter it out and flush it out and make it really, really intriguing. But yeah, it was concerning to me, but we'll see how that flushes out. As for other things, what's going on? I think, like for the near future, I've got some cool projects lined up. There's a Fringe Festival here in northern Colorado. For those of you who don't know what a Fringe Festival is, basically it's a festival of like artists, performers, singers, dancers, actors, whatever, playwrights, to gather and share their work in a setting that they basically would house art that wouldn't otherwise get presented. So at this Fringe Festival, I'm working on a project with several other people, and it's called a splash, like a splash performance, which, bear with me, it sounds super gay, I know. But what it is basically it's 3 directors. We all got one script from an award-winning playwright that wrote this just for us. We all got the same script, and it's about 25 minutes long. It is performed by 2 actors, and there's 3 directors, 6 total actors. Each director gets 2, and they're creating their own versions of the show as they go through. And so each director, there's basically going to be 3 versions of the show and 3 people in each role, right? So what will happen is the day of the performance, they do a drawing to see what version of the show they're doing. And, well, not necessarily what version, but to see who's performing it. So I would get drawn, for instance, and somebody from Iowa would get drawn. And then we have to, having never met before, perform the show together. Having never rehearsed it, no idea how they got blocked or how they set up the scene and staged it. We have no clue. We just have to perform it. And that's why you have to focus intently on the language, on the motivations, like on all of the really deep stuff that often gets overlooked by more amateur performances. So it's very intriguing. It's super interesting, and I'm very excited for that. And that's going to just be like a fun little thing to do in my spare time over the next month and a half before it performs. So that's going to be interesting. As for other things that are going on, I think there's going to be the big thing with the set that I was going to say. I'm looking at potentially moving sometime like around August, late July, early August. And also I'll be in a new space that hopefully I can deck out a little more. I can get flushed out a little more and just make mine, because I'm very constrained in terms of space where I currently am. And so being able to get into that space, stretch my wings a little, and really focus exactly what I want to focus on, I think is going to be very good. And I'm excited for that, because I think that's going to be really, really good for the overall channel to be able to get a space, a studio, a setting, and just focus on it and polish it. So I'm very excited about that. As for other things, like we're just chugging along. I don't foresee having to drop the YouTube. I made that video, the video I didn't want to make. And like, I think a lot of people read that as, oh no, he's quitting YouTube. That's not where I meant it. What I meant was, this is very time consuming. And I do this because I enjoy doing it and I enjoy entertaining people. But that doesn't change the fact that it takes a lot of time and it's just time consuming. So when it's not a job, it's hard to justify that time when I still need to pay rent and pay for school, whatever. So naturally it will take more time. So I never meant that I was going to drop YouTube entirely. I just meant that I was going to start running out of time to do this. So projects that previously took a month to work on could take 3, 4, 5 months to work on. If not more. And naturally that's frustrating for me and frustrating for you, everybody involved. That's why we set up the Patreon, and there's been people that have donated, incredibly generous, and that's part of what makes this doable. And I'm very, very thankful for that. And in the fall, it does look, I have orientation Thursday, so day after tomorrow, at the school, Colorado State University. And I'm going to be getting that set up, and we're going to be going full time in the fall. So naturally, a lot of time is going to be consumed doing that. And I'm very thankful that you guys are supportive and understanding in that endeavor. But naturally, there's going to be a lot of careful scheduling, which, what else is new? But let's see. Mike says, hey, Luke, just got here. Like I said in the previous video, your content is worth sticking by, whether it's the quality, consistency, and entertainment. Best of luck and wishes. We'll still be here. Glad that you will be here, my friend. We're definitely glad to have you and people like you, for sure. The fact that you juggle it all is amazing to begin with. Well, thank you, Alexander. I appreciate that. I don't really like having free time, so I know that sounds stupid. I really don't. What's your major? Business. We're studying business because I figure if I'm gonna spend all this time working on it, I might as well get a degree that I eventually can filter into something else if it doesn't work out. So what are you gonna do? Have you considered doing Let's Plays? I have. We've looked at it. I used to do some every once in a while. They never did well on the channel. Like some people watched them, and the people that watched them enjoyed them. They just aren't super popular, and that's naturally transitioned over to Twitch. Twitch being difficult, though, because it requires basically 5 nights a week as a commitment before you can even get partnered and start to get stuff. So it can be done. It's very tough to do. And so basically, like, that's why I made that video pushing the Patreon, because the second that this can filter over and become my job, or at least a part-time job, where I can leave my current full-time job, just work there maybe in the mornings, for instance, and then this I can set aside for the evenings entirely. Then I can just stream every night. Like, just stream 5 nights a week. That's okay. Like, then it'll be awesome. Everybody gets what they want, and it'll be sick. But until that happens, it's just hard to justify and hard to manage. Alexander says, I would like to see you play Detroit, but I understand if you don't do a playthrough. Well, I think the way the schedule should align itself, we should be able to do a few, like, game streams of that. So I think that actually is very likely to happen. So I would not lose faith there. I think that is actually very possible, especially considering it comes out Thursday. I think it comes out Thursday. Yeah, I think it comes out Thursday. So yeah, I'll be posting like some videos on that. I'm not sure if we'll live stream here or on Twitch. We'll see. We might live stream it on Twitch and then upload like the recording here or something. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I haven't really thought that through, but we'll figure it out. But of course, it is time for yeah, it's been forever since I streamed on Twitch. You're telling me. I know, my friend. let's quickly go through the final flush because it is that time of the evening, and then we will call it. I've already picked out what we're going to celebrate with. It was recommended on the Discord server, so if you're not on there already, then you got to check it out. But yeah, let's figure this out. So if you haven't done this before, basically what we do is let me take that off. Basically what we do is we go through, you put something funny into the chat, just like a one-liner, a little joke, a little jab or something, and then I read through them. If I crack up while reading through them, then you win, and you're the winner of this week. If I don't crack up in the allotted time limit, then I win, and you guys all lose. And then, regardless of the outcome, because there's no child left behind anymore, we all celebrate, we all get participation medals and watch a funny video together. That usually, the funny videos are just recommended from, let's see, look at this. This is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. This is insane. I need to sue that woman. It's just not good. It's just not good. It's not good. Now I look like a young Adolf Hitler. Like that's, or an old one for all I know. My goodness. Anyway, yeah. So that's what's happening. Let's get ready. Let's plow through them here. Let me get this over. Hopefully the screens work. Oh wait, why would I put the chat there? I'm a fool. I'm a damn fool. Let's pull that like that. Look at that. Now we're centered. Look at that. That's hotness. That's the new hotness right there. Then I can crop that. Oh yeah. Oh, I feel a sneeze coming. And I muted it just in time. Look at that. I'm a professional. Don't try this at home, kids. Here we go. So we're going to read through the comments. I'll give myself like, what, a minute? 2 minutes, a minute? I don't know what it should be. It's not like I ever adhere to the time limit because I suck. We'll just hit go and read through them. Let's see. And thank you, Mike. Very kind comment. What do you say to a woman who has two black eyes? Nothing. You've already told her. Oh, that's bad. Galfad, Air New Zealand created a new line of Lord of the Rings themed airplanes with a big mural of all the characters painted on the side of the craft. First stop, the Two Towers. Oh, no. I have a cold. That wasn't a laugh. I don't know what you're talking about. What did the cannibal do after he dumped his girlfriend? Wiped his butt. Oh, no. You guys are coming out strong tonight. Why isn't there any Cuban Olympic team? Because any Cuban that could run, jump, or swim already lives in America. Oh, I remember that one. Not a joke, but we would love to have you in voice chat on the Discord after the stream. If not, we understand. I will check. I got a phone call while we were live streaming, so I'll have to call that person back, whoever that was. Oh, it's the lady friend. So yeah, I should probably call her back once we're done. So I'll let you know. We got to drive her to the airport, so I might be busy, but we'll see. Anyway, enough stalling. I will continue. What's brown and sticky? A stick. I'm not a funny person, so good luck, you lovely people. Good night, Luke, and keep being awesome. Thank you, Leanne. We're glad to have you here. We're glad to have had you here. There we go. Proper English. Hi, Kratos. Hello, son. No, sorry. Boy. What is a zebra 26 times larger and a bra? Okay. The hair screams mine fear. You're damn right it does. The nuclear. I would tell you a 9/11 joke, but they always fall flat. How do you get holy water? Boil the hell out of it. Oh, I haven't heard that one before. That's good. How have I not heard that one before? That seems obvious. It seems like a really simple, but that's good. I'm impressed. Well done. And that's 2 minutes. 2 minutes on the nose. I told you I never adhere to these rules. We're celebrating. Yeah, I just freaking let it slide. I let it slip what we're watching. But we are going to watch the greatest piece of music ever crafted. Here we go. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1.
China.
Go.
Half of my hotels are in China. We're getting outsmarted by China. No, but my towers are in China. I grant lawsuit for China. China. They are devaluing their money. And they're taking our. They're beating out companies. It's not funny. We need to build a wall. Trump Tower's very important. We need to get back to winning. It's got me feeling like bing, 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 bong, bing, bong, bong. I won North Carolina. Now my next stop is China. Got me feeling like bing, 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 bong, bing, bong, bong. I think they are very smart. But now it's so much. China.
I don't know what this is either, but I know I love it. China, no. Well done. Hail to the chief, the one, the only. That was from Grande, Grandayy. Fantastic. I actually listened to a few of his other videos. He does a very good job. So go check him out. Subscribe to him. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, no, I just love the bing, 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 bong. I just remembered in that moment where he's holding the water bottle. Do you remember? But if you're out of the U.S., you might not have heard it. But it was basically like Marco Rubio, who's another person running for the Republican nomination. He had a habit of sweating really, really badly. Like he's just a sweater. Like I know people who just sweat excessively and like their butt sweats really bad. So they sit down on a wood chair. And then when they stand up, you see like the sweat outline. It's just gross, but they sweat and they can't control it. It's not their fault, but it's a thing. Oh, it's me in the background. That's trippy. I don't like that. I don't like that. That's going away. So with, all of that, it's just gross. Anyway, point being, he was making fun of Marco Rubio at a rally because he was so sweaty. And so he took a water bottle and he's like, Marco must be in here. And starts spraying the water, everybody. And it was like raining water. And it's like, oh, Marco must be in here. I thought it was hilarious. It was wonderful. It was great. Anyway, that's about it, everybody. Thank you for coming out to this surprise last minute thrown together live stream. I was gonna make like a recorded video talking about stuff, but then I was like, wait, what the, I have a lot, like I have a show that I do to talk about these very things. I think mainly it's just that I keep kind of just neglecting it. I keep forgetting what we have and what we can do here. So yeah, what are you gonna do? I guess live stream more. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to build it. This will be on iTunes hopefully sometime in the next day or so. So if you like listening on the go, you can do that. I try to update it as fast as I can, but it is also dependent on the like iTunes system, so the subscription feed on their end. So hopefully they can pull it together. But everything, thank you, everybody. I love you all. Peace out, my friends, and I'll see you in the next video. I love you. Peace. Bye-bye. 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 Echo sounds. Echo sounds. Echo sounds.